Okay.
Great.
Okay, we're live, Jeanine.
Okay, everyone, welcome to Book Club. And we're talking about American Dirt today by Jeanine Cummins. And it's had a lot of controversy around it. And I think it's I'll read a quick review. American Dirt begins by describing a shootout at a barbecue where a woman's entire family, other than her son, are murdered by a cartel. 16 people are killed. The opening is tense, frightening, and focuses on the emotions of a young boy and his mom hiding in the shower and avoiding the murder. But then the book goes on and you find out who this leader of the cartel is, and he's a book lover, and Lydia has had some dealings with him in a positive way. So that's the beginning of the book. And I mean, I heard about it when it came out. It was on Oprah, and it was the book to read. And then all of a sudden, it got this huge bad press, lots of bad press. And so then, when Oprah had her book club on Apple TV, they made sure to invite many Latin authors and other people who have experienced this migration story for their own life. And but I know I read Eva Longoria, the actress. She's I won't even read that book. I mean, and I think by saying I won't read that book, I don't know.
Why?
Because it wasn't written by a Latin person. It's a Latin perspective, Hispanic perspective, but it's written by a white woman. And so I think her problem was in the whole beginning of it was then she started to kind of say, well, my grandmother is Puerto Rican and my husband is an undocumented, he was an undocumented citizen for a while, but he was from Ireland. So it was a whole different, like, it's a whole different kind of, but in the description of the book, they don't say where he's from. You think, oh, undocumented, he's from Mexico or Latin America. And then she did a Twitter, that she was excited about her book tour, and she did her manicure as the cover of the book. So it was the birds and the barbed wire, and that just blew people up. They go, well, what'd she do that for? So that was, there's so much controversy because it's a great book, and it's too bad. Linda, we're not hearing you. Unmute you.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Right. I thought it was really good. And see, I wondered why it was controversial. I didn't know any of this about I didn't know any of this. Although it doesn't change the fact that I think it was a good book.
It's a good book. It's a good book.
It's a good book. It's very timely. It's very timely with what's going on right now.
Yeah.
The author said in the back of the book that she spoke to some central, somebody in the book that told her, yes, she should write it, because she was concerned that she wasn't from Mexico or Central America. And she spoke to somebody who, I don't know if they taught somewhere, but who was from there and said, no, somebody has to write this book, so please write it. So she felt that at the beginning that maybe that would be an issue.
Well, and think about all the people who are educated on this whole, there were a lot of things that I was unaware of prior to reading this book. And I feel like that's what a good book should do is, educate you on life events through fiction. And I don't know, I guess it wasn't written like she was a privileged, person.
Yeah. No, and I think just her history, I think she's a credible author in that she's had some really, and I haven't read any of her other books, but her brother was killed and her cousins were killed and thrown off of a bridge. So she has all of this, like, this grief that she brought to this book from her own experiences. So yeah, when I was reading about her, I went, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, so I no, I thought it was an excellent book, and I think the whole that she wasn't a Latin is no, hey, it brought out the problem, and it's very timely, as Myra said, very timely of what's happening, and made
We're
me
seeing,
more.
we're seeing things right now with these coyotes that are taking kids just so far and then throwing them over a wall or throwing them in the water, leaving them on their own. I mean, she experienced some of this with the coyotes that she dealt with in the book. The thing about riding on top of the train, they've said that kids are doing that now.
Oh,
There are just
that's
so many things that are accurate to what people are really living through right now.
I found the book extremely compelling, well written, and it's a good story. And to object to a well-written, compelling story because it isn't written by someone of its origin or nationality, the term that's being used is she wasn't brown, that it's brown face. And I understand it somewhat, but I don't think it's fair. It's a
no, I don't think it's fair either. If you do research on anything, that compels you. If you talk to all these people, you have that knowledge. If you go and you experience some of these things, you have that knowledge. And I mean, that's just like saying nobody can write anything except for what they specifically, if you're white, you can only write about white things, or if you're, I mean, that's ridiculous because good writers can write about anything. What about the people that go to other countries and write about those people? I think that's an invalid, even an invalid anything, because if you're a good writer, you are going to write accurately and a good story. She's a good writer. She wrote a really compelling book, and it makes people aware of some things if you haven't been aware of them. And I think it's crazy to even let's pick, you may as well just pick apart everything. I mean, I'm just tired of these people. There's somebody can complain about everything. It's irritating.
Well, in the 60s, what happened was there were a big push to have books about the African American culture. So what they did is they had a bunch of people writing, and they took just the illustrations of white people and then colored it a little bit.
Oh.
And so in library school, you were taught, you make sure you find an author writing about the experience, like a Black author writing about, be careful how you purchase books, so you're taught that. But I think this is so different. I mean, it's, yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's so different. I think it's right there. I think it's right in there with what's being complained about. But I don't think it's fair to complain about it because it's a piece of nonfiction. Well-written, compelling story. And if you read the article, if you read anything about when Oprah picked it, she says, she had me from the beginning, from the first sentence. The way I felt about the book. I read this book in less than 2 days. I wanted to know what happened. It was compelling. It was a mystery. There were all kinds of components. Yes, was I learning things to a certain extent, but I'd read Enrique's Journey, which was 2014. I'd read The Leavers by Lisa Coe, which was 2006, which are similar experiences, particularly in Enrique's Journey. It's a nonfiction account of a small child from Honduras. Now, was that any less accurate because he didn't write it? It was written by a woman. And The Leavers is about a Chinese experience. And I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. In another book club, I'm going to lead a discussion on a book written by a Black woman. Am I capable of doing that? I think that the people that are objecting to Jeanine Cummins would say, no, I'm not.
Mhm.
It's a story. You're discussing it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's bringing it out in the open, something that for some people it's the first knowledge of it. You know, you might not have heard about all of what's happening. So I spent a year ago, March, in a month in San Miguel Allende, and in that city, which is in the story, there's a library, a library that the expats and the Canadians all go to, and they have all kinds of talks and things. So they had the guy from the migrant shelter come and talk, and then they showed a film about it, and we met people. I saw people without their limbs from losing it from the train. And I didn't put this book and this together. And then you actually saw them walking through the city. And it was so I mean, I was there and I saw it, but when I read this book, it made it almost more real to me that I'd actually seen something that was happening that's being written about in a, but yeah, and they remember when they say go back to your country, go back. They kept saying that. They said that in the film that I was watched at that library in San Miguel Allende. They were saying we try to get people to go back home, not to keep going, and that's the big push. And so it was really interesting that I had experienced it. It was just like so strange. But yeah, so the book made it so real that it was like I was viewing it but not really connecting, and then it told the whole story of these people walking. So yeah.
I
Well, and
thought
then
it
just
was a
to,
very good book too. It told, as you say, why they wanted to leave and everything like that. The hardest part was in the beginning when the man ordered the whole family shot. That was pretty hard to swallow. But that disaster, of course, was what made her start on her journey. But I didn't know anything. I knew they took trains and all that kind of stuff, but you didn't know. This really gave you a good account of being there yourself and trying to do this by yourself. Years ago, when we were in Guatemala and Honduras and stuff on a vacation, our guide was a self-employed man, and he had just bought a brand new car, and the government took it away from him, didn't give him any money for it. You went by the street, the houses all had, the nice houses all had fences with barbed wire on the top, things like that. And this was 10 or 20 years ago. So this has been going on for a long time. And now, of course, with these migrant children, that's another whole thing. The migrant children on their own walking. I don't understand how that can happen. They get help along the way. It's kind of like the Negroes crossing, escaping. You get help from different ones here and there. But it's just kind of mind-boggling that somebody would let their kids go alone on a journey like this to try to get to the United States.
You were unsure about that opening chapter. I just wanted to mention there was something in the news not that long ago about a whole family being murdered by the cartels. They were Americans. They had set up a little compound in Mexico, and they came and wiped them out, women and children. I mean, this happens. The cartels are things that we don't really hear a lot about here. You know that there's one leader that's been in jail. They talk about the extenuating circumstances, but you don't know how it works on a day-to-day basis in those countries. It's got to be awful.
And the cartel is just not drugs. So in Mexico, the
Oh.
cartel is owns like a lot of things. They the avocado industry is completely cartel run. And I was really surprised by that because I learned that when I was in Mexico on a food tour, and the chef that led the tour said, "See this avocado? If you see don't ever buy a avocado from Mexico, from the United States. If you're in the United States, don't buy one because it's only benefiting the cartel. Buy yours from California. Don't get it from Mexico." And he goes, if you're going to buy an avocado in Mexico, buy it from, and he showed, who you should buy it from, because the cartel has pretty much running. And I was like really surprised. I had never heard that. And my niece, who's a freshman in high school, said, "Oh yeah, we learned about that." So I'm so happy that our kids now are being educated a little bit more than, I never heard that before.
Well, the cartels are nothing more than an example of money talks.
Yeah.
Avocados are a commodity that people want. Drugs are a commodity that people want. And money is what talks, and money is what controls things.
Mm-hmm.
I found the character, the head of the cartel, really one of the best characters that Cummings developed, because he had love of books, he had love of his family, and that was believable to me. His business was ruthless and horrible, but that was his business.
Mm-hmm.
His family was his family. And there are examples all over the world and in literature where there are people like the guy who was the head of the cartel.
Mm-hmm.
You can be involved in horrible business and still love your family. Because why are you involved in that business? You want the money, you want the power. And why do you want that? To make your family's life better. So I think this book on so many levels talked about things that were really, and I really was annoyed that Oprah bought into it, was controversial, that it wasn't just a story that could be examined.
Yeah.
It was worth what it was talking about.
Yeah. I got the questions online for different reading groups, and the one from Jeanine Cummins' website, each question is like really long. But like the first one, Lydia is a middle class person and owned a bookstore, which I was really impressed by.
Right.
And in the question, they're saying, what if Lydia was poor and was a migrant? She does it make a difference that she was a middle class person and a migrant? Or, we don't see it from a poor person's perspective. I know. So that was the first question. And maybe she chose this because more people would identify with Lydia.
I think she did it as a middle-class person because we assume that any migrant is a poor person and doesn't have money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're coming.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were middle class, they would be happy and stay where they were. I think this shows us that even middle class people have reasons to come, and I think it's unexpected, because if she was poor, we understand the poverty person. This is a totally different scenario as to, and she's, and she has education and things like this. This tells us that, and she's cleaning houses at the end. It's like any of these immigrants that come over here and that are doctors or engineers or whatever, and they end up doing something that's so subservient to their intellect and their their careers in their other countries just to get here. So that tells you how important it was for her to come here, that she would give up all of that and end up doing and being happy what she's doing, cleaning houses.
Well, the alternative was she was going to get killed.
Right, but I mean, this
She was
happens in all
afraid.
these other countries too. You know, we're not talking just, you know, this is global. This is just isn't from Mexico or Honduras. This is from other countries too. Think of people coming from, you know, the Middle East and from Ukraine and all these other places. There's lots of places where people want to immigrate for various reasons.
That brings up the issue of asylum. There are a lot of different reasons that people try to come. Some of it's political asylum. She needed help because she was targeted for murder. Some people come for economic reasons. I know a lot of women from Middle America are worried because they are in danger of being raped and brutalized by the male-oriented culture. I mean, yet recently the idea of asylum has kind of been pushed totally aside. So we saw
they
some of the
bring,
reasons.
yeah, they bring that up in the book where if you're Central American, you're usually granted asylum, but if you're Mexican, no. And she said, but we're all in danger, you know, it's
But it goes back to the basic issue of power and money. We get along with Mexico. We think we, as the United States, we get along with Mexico. We think we don't necessarily get along with all of the countries in Central America, and we recognize them as we don't like what they do, so we'll grant them asylum. The whole issue of immigration is really curious. Think of how desperate you have to be to want to come to this country. And you're all gonna jump down my throat for this one. But why does somebody want to come to this country? Look at January 6th.
Yeah. Well, look at any day. There's mass murder, there's mass killings almost every week somewhere.
I mean, it's like they have got to be so desperate to think that this is the perfect place to come. I mean, I don't think there's any one of us that's involved in this discussion that's in any danger. Well, I don't know. You never know. I hate that phrase. He was the nicest guy. He was so quiet, you know, the mass murderer that lived next door. And that start to think about stuff like that. At least, I don't know. I've got way too much time on my hands, but the thing is that I just think that I mean, we aren't the most perfect place in the world, and
but they think we are.
I think we are so hypocritical. Every single one of us came from immigrants, came from people that struggled, and came from people
Don't
that
you think?
be here. And why are we
Okay.
so non-accepting of people that want to come here and start a new life? I just think we're hypocritical. I really do.
Well, years ago, when our grandparents came over from wherever they came from, there wasn't all this. There was always, it was more for poverty and chances to get to better yourself. I don't think it was for killings and things like that.
Well,
but
if you go back and look at Jewish people, definitely it was their life.
well,
During the Second
that's
World
another
War.
whole.
But if you look at an immigrant if you look at a migrant that is starving and wants to better themselves and have a job and feed their family, that's the Irish story.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, there was persecution where people left to get out of, I mean, the pogroms in Russia, Jews that wanted to get out of that, and there's been persecution where people have wanted to come to this country for years. And it's the immigrant story is universal when it comes to coming to this country. You think that it's like the best place to come to, things are gonna be okay. And then as Marcia pointed out, you know, you're a doctor or an engineer, but you're not accepted, but you can be a janitor.
Sure.
You know, I just think we're hypocritical. I really do. And I know that's not a topic people want to, well, anyway.
But that's today, and I'm talking about 100 years ago when people came. There
And
wasn't this.
we were just as not accepting 100 years ago as we are now.
Mhm.
Oh, I,
Signs all-
no,
There were
I
signs
disagree.
there were signs all over that said Irish need not apply.
I disagree.
Or Italian
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
or any,
But,
any,
yep,
Yeah.
any minority group. And
any minority group.
the way our society works is there has to be someone on the bottom and someone on the top, and the
Yeah.
new are the bottom.
And that, yeah, they,
Yet we wrote it. We're based on a government that says, "Welcome, come, and have happiness." I went to a friend of mine's citizenship ceremony, and the federal judge said, "You have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I'm sorry, but that may not happen. I hope it does, but it may not happen. He expanded upon it, and I can't remember all of it. All I know is that instead of rushing up and hugging the person that I went to see become an American citizen, I pushed everybody aside and went up and shook hands with the federal judge and said, "Thank you for speaking the truth." Because it doesn't happen for everybody. It can't happen for everybody the way our society is set up. And I've gotten way off topic and gotten political. I'm sorry. Let's get back. I mean, I could stay here, but it's not fair. So.
So let's talk about the title and American Dirt. And the only time they mention the word American is like on page 329.
Toward the end.
At the end.
Toward the end of the book. Then I understood why they said dirt.
Yeah,
It's
American
just
Dirt.
the dirt of America when you come.
Yeah, and
Just
the
dirt of
road
America.
was like the crappiest Mexican road he'd ever seen. So the American dirt that he sees is like the crappiest. I think that means a lot. I think she put that in there for a reason. What do you think?
I don't know.
Did she mean? I mean, did she mean to do that, or it just kind of? I think all dirt looks the same, and yes, America is going to have some crappy stuff happening. I think her use of language is fantastic. Her descriptive language throughout the book. I mean, this book could have been like a third of the size, but the description, like in the beginning, she called herself a scrambled egg, and then it goes through talking about it. And I was like, wow, this woman has her descriptive language. So I think that the title is, again, her using descriptive language in her way. Usually I watch interviews of the author, but I didn't. So I can't say what she thought about the title. But yeah, and to only use American once in the book, not to use it anytime they referred to the United States, it's Estados Unidos, that never America, which we all say America, but it's Estados Unidos is, so that's, I think, significant too. Because they're all Americans. We're all Americans, Canadians.
If you looked at the map, I mean, that you saw the travel, they didn't have it had it labeled.
Yeah.
Well, when you travel, do you say, "Oh, I'm American"? I don't know. I usually say, "Oh, I'm from the US." I don't ever say like I'm American. I don't know. It's weird.
Americano.
Americano.
They even say Americano. You're an Americano. So, but Canadians and Americans are all kind of grouped as one group.
I'm sure the Canadians don't like that.
But I think this immigrant problem, as we mentioned, someone mentioned in the beginning, is just not our problem here in the United States. I think it's a global problem.
Yeah.
Many countries are experiencing it in some way. And yeah,
Well, isn't that because their governments are all corrupt? They don't want to take care of these people. Mexico for years has been,
Yeah.
this has been going on for years with Mexico. Mexico doesn't give a hoot. They just go about their thing and let the people worry about their own lives and try to get better.
France was having a
I
big
think it's
problem, weren't they, with immigrants from Iraq or Iran or someplace for a while, and whether they're,
Syria.
yeah,
well, yeah.
and now Germany has taken them in.
yeah,
That's kind of Germany's problem
yeah,
right now.
they were having a big problem just because they were just coming over in massive quantities also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it
And-
is a big problem to us, and how are we going to stop it? I mean, they have to fix it. The government has to do something about it, and it takes them a long time to do anything. So they just keep coming.
I know in the UK, if you come over and you're illegal, you're you could be put in a center for years before they figure it out. So it's not just, we think
Right.
no one knows how to do it. Well, I wonder how Kamala is in charge of it, how she's going to handle it. I haven't heard
We'll find
anything.
out.
I haven't heard anything like how I feel she's capable and it'll be good. But but you haven't really heard her say anything. And
I heard that that's her first trip. She's going to be flying to Central America soon.
okay. All
But-
right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I wonder if she's read American Dirt.
She had time this year.
Yeah. Well, I just want you to know that dirt, when you think of the word dirt, my son's a soil scientist. He would never refer to the stuff outside as dirt.
It's soil.
It's soil.
It's not
And-
dirt, it's soil. Yeah, right.
Soil. And
But,
and I remember, dirt isn't really so American dirt. Maybe there's something with that too. It's not American soil, it's American dirt.
Have you thought about the possibility that it's referring to the people coming to this country? That they're not valued?
That could be.
No.
I think there's lots to this title.
Yeah,
And what are the birds signifying?
They're typical
Freedom.
tiles. I read this morning about what is the significance of the cover. They're typical Mexican tiles and that are used all over Mexico, and the fact that they have the bars on them is like they're being restricted. And birds are a universal symbol of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was a really good book. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
Even though it was
really a
horrible.
good book.
Yeah.
And I was, when I was reading, I was kind of mad that it got such bad press because it's a good book. And it's making people really discuss the situation. Anytime a book makes you talk about it and is a good book. And there's talk that it's going to be a movie. Do you think it would make a good movie?
Oh
mhm.
God, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a really interesting movie.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't it? I mean, it's got all the elements. It's got all
Yeah.
the elements that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
The bad guys, the good guys. The good guys win in the end. There's tension, there's terror, there's love.
Mm-hmm. And the casting, I think it'll be interesting how they cast it, One of the, from the book discussion, the usual ones I get it from, had, what do you think Donald Trump would say about this book?
Who cares?
Wait, that was.
Who really cares?
Which I thought was interesting because he always. I thought that was an interesting question that they had on there. That was different, you know. You don't see that or think that or yeah. So
I don't think he read much.
No, he wouldn't have read that.
He would have to read the book first. He would have
Yeah.
to read the book first. He's too busy playing golf.
Yeah, he could listen to it while he's on the golf course. But I thought that was an interesting question.
Why would you even give him that much credit? Or even
Well, it's funny that usually you don't see anything political on these websites, and I'm like, whoa, well, that's an interesting.
Well, this is the president that wanted to build the big wall and
Yeah.
spent billions of dollars. So I think it's a really good question because, he would send them back. I mean, he wouldn't even think twice about it. He doesn't care if somebody gets killed or raped or anything. He really doesn't care. Of course, all he does care about is himself, but he really, he has no empathy for these people or any people.
Well, I love the art installation that was put up just when, okay, so they built the wall and then they put the teeter-totters between. Did anyone see that art installation?
Yeah.
So they put teeter-totters in between. So on one side was Mexico, the other side, so the kids could come and people can come and it's a teeter-totter between the walls. And I thought that was like such a cool thing to do. I think that's been taken down now, but for a couple of months it was up and people went and did the teeter. I think it means a lot. I think there's
So what was the teeter-totters for?
it was between the wall. So the wall has openings enough where they were able to make these teeter-totters that people can get on, and so they had people from both sides. Because really when the border is probably cutting in half families and relatives and different things like that. So I thought that was a good thing. So a couple of things. El Chaco, he was the coyote, right? And did you think he was a hero, a villain? In the beginning, I thought he was kind of a villain, but what did you think about him? I thought he was a great character.
I thought he just really cared about these people and he tried his best and he was to me was more of a hero than
hero. Yeah, I thought he was a great
hero.
hero.
He didn't want to cheat the people, but he had to pay the cartel, so he had to charge these people, and he went with them. He took care of them. But he wasn't going to fool around. If these people didn't pay attention, they were going to die. I mean, he was very truthful with these people.
Yeah.
He was a businessman. He was another example of you do business and you have another life. He was, in my opinion, very similar to the head of the cartel. The head of the cartel read great books. If you would have just met him as a guy in the bookstore, you would have liked him.
Yeah.
If you would have just met the coyote as a guy that had compassion once in a while, you would have liked him. But if you met him in the beginning, when he lays down the rules and when he's really strict, which as Marcia points out, he has to be because it's no nonsense business. And when you think about the fact that the business he's in, he's obviously got to care about people.
Yeah.
Got to be a hard nose to do his business. It's business.
And
he's got to keep everybody alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't risk the lives of everyone if somebody,
Business.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking, the deaths that occurred, except for the one guy, the rapist. What was his name? I forgot.
Lorenzo.
I blocked his name. But the deaths when Beto died, I was crushed. I was like, oh
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh, yeah.
And those two left in the desert with the guy with the broken leg. That was,
But she's a good storyteller. She kept you there. She
yeah.
kept
Yeah.
And
and
it's
she
truthful.
gave you
These
more.
things
She's a
happen.
great storyteller.
Yeah, 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 and I love the Soledad and Rebecca because it reminded me of some of the people that I've met in Ecuador. You know, I could see their beauty and see them, those two girls, and how they were so close. And knowing, you know, what Soledad went through, her whole cartel experience. So the Central American countries having the same situation as Mexico, and it's just a global problem. So, yeah. Well, let's see. Anyone have anything else they want to share? We're getting close to our, Lorenzo was that bad guy's name.
Renzo, yeah.
Lorenzo. I was surprised that she killed him. I yeah, I was
I
surprised.
wasn't.
by it. Well, he
I
deserved
wasn't.
it. No one
He deserved it.
that.
He
but
needed it.
yeah.
He
And
was a
and you,
sneak.
but did you realize that he was following her all along?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I
I did.
thought so
I
too.
did.
It was
Yeah.
alluded to in several different scenarios throughout the book. You could.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. Yeah, and she knew it too. Yeah. Well, I hope Javier never finds them. Do you think he would go as far as going into the US to look for them? Or do you think he was done finally?
I think he was done. He really did like her, so maybe he, you know, he let them go.
Yeah.
Well, he said he would never hurt her, but that's, you know, he said that. Oh, I would never hurt you. Well, yeah, right.
Well, he
Oh,
destroyed
it's
her.
just a book.
Yeah.
It's just a book anyway. It's not real life. She's not a real life character, this lady, the heroine in the book. So you can draw your own conclusions.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Are we gonna read are we gonna read? Are we gonna read a happy book next?
well, I think the next two books are, the next two books are okay. They're fine. I think they're a break before Cast. So Cast is our last book before we start over again. But so yeah, so Unruly Guests. I think some people have already read that book.
Yeah.
Myra,
Isn't it
any
the-
words on Unruly
Isn't it the
Guests?
guest list? Isn't it
Oh
the
yeah,
guest list?
guest list, not unruly guests.
Guest.
Why am I saying unruly guests?
I don't know.
Because it's about unruly guests. I don't know.
Yeah, I read it. It's a really easy read. I mean, it's pretty, it's an easy read. I mean, it's
Yeah. Well, hopefully I haven't written unruly guests anywhere in any emails.
I have a question. I came in just as we started. Did we get to meet Lucy?
No, not yet.
Could we meet Lucy? Is that possible?
Yeah,
Oh, don't you all want to see Lucy?
she's my baby. That was just born on the 20th.
I'm not seeing Jess. Where is she?
Oh,
Jess,
sweet.
talk so they can see you.
Oh, can you see me? I'm Lucy's right.
No.
Oh, Jess, congratulations.
Can you see her now? I'm
No.
pinning
Yeah,
her.
here I am.
A little better. It's a little better. Still dark.
Can you guys see her?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're a pretty girl. Pretty girl.
I love being able to work from home while I'm getting my legs under. This is not easy, I tell you what. I
No,
brought
it
her in yesterday and she was upset.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Work.
Yeah.
Here. There. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Oh, Jess,
There you
that
go.
is so cool.
Now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
Lucy
and
to
it-
book
you-
club.
I know. She's in book club now.
Yeah.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyone with any final words about our book, or will Bonnie, I think, did you want to say anything about the book?
I
I've
was wondering
just
if we're gonna
been
be
listening.
back.
I guess first I want to say thanks for letting me join in because I live over in Marinette County. I work at the
Oh,
Peshtigo Library,
yeah.
and I'd been searching around a few weeks ago looking for some book clubs, and there's a lot on Door County. So I guess for me with the book, it made me realize how far people are coming to get into the United States. Because maybe I just didn't think about it, but you know, when we see on TV, they'll have the cameras down at the border and you're seeing families or kids or a couple of guys coming up that dirt road. And I never really thought about how far their journey, I mean, hundreds or thousands of miles, and what everybody went through to get up here. That just stunned me, I guess, in a way. And I, like so many of you, though, I enjoyed the book, and I was disappointed too about the controversy, which I didn't know about the controversy until after I finished the book. And then I started looking at some other things, and I thought, you know, to me, it was a good story. And I think it, you know, you can't just figure we're all going to write of our own experience. Like someone mentioned earlier, if you're a good writer, you do research. And then you write your story. And so I really thought it was a good story. And for me, as I said, is that it gave me a sense of what people are going through to go on that journey.
And another thing about her being a good writer, she talked about all the bad things, but there were some good people on the way. The doctor who cared for them.
Oh, yeah. The people
And
that
I
fed
think
them and
sometimes you read a book and it's all like this bad stuff, but there was every once in a while there was someone that was good and helped them, and I was glad to see that too in that book. So, well, everyone, anyone else, any other closing thoughts? Well, next month, the guest list by Lucy Foley, right?
Unruly guest list.
A guest list. I don't know. Is it about some unruly guests?
it takes, well, you have to read it, but it takes place in this very remote hotel.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So, and I have lots of copies at the library. So if you haven't read it, just let me know and I'll put one out for you. It's an easy book to get a hold of. So, and if you've read it, you want The Lions of Fifth Avenue, I've got that too. They sent them already.
That's the one I want.
The next
Well,
one.
thank you very much. Have a good month.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.